Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome everyone to today's explainer. Today we are looking at something that exists literally right behind the walls of every single home and business. It's something we rely on constantly, but let's be honest, we almost never think about it until it completely ruins our day. Our plumbing. Specifically, we're unpacking a really fascinating breakdown from Dr. Drain on how an annual drain maintenance plan doesn't just save you a massive headache, it actively cuts major costs. Now, think about this for a second. We all tend to treat plumbing emergencies like they're, I don't know, lightning strikes, right? Just these totally unpredictable, unavoidable acts of nature that we just have to suffer through and pay for. But the data from plumbing pros, it tells a completely different story. Most of these quote-unquote emergencies are actually highly predictable, and more importantly, they are entirely preventative if you just know what to look for. Let's move to and see how this builds. Section 1. How drain disasters begin. The unseen escalation behind the walls. All right, so this right here maps out the actual anatomy of a plumbing failure. Disasters rarely ever just start as disasters. Step 1 is almost always something we easily ignore, a slightly slow drain or maybe a faint recurring odor. But behind the scenes, step 2 is happening silently. It's a steady, daily, and frankly pretty gross accumulation of grease, hair, and soap scum just clinging to those pipe walls. That naturally brings us to step 3, where minor blockages start to form. The water still drains, so we usually just ignore it, right? But eventually, inevitably, we hit step 4. Costly repairs, complete breakdowns, and that frantic, stressed-out call to a plumber. The big takeaway here? Every major blowout started as a minor annoyance that was simply left unchecked. Which brings us to the harsh financial reality of property ownership in our next section, the cost of reactive repairs. Why emergencies break the bank. Now, what's really interesting about this is the stark contrast between reacting to a problem and actively planning for it. When things break down completely, you aren't just paying for a simple fix. Oh no, you're looking at after-hours service premiums, urgent labor rates, and honestly, the absolute worst part, secondary water intrusion. That means water is actively damaging your walls, your floors, or even the foundation before the actual plumbing issue is even fully addressed. But by proactively handling those small, manageable defects through annual maintenance, your expenses suddenly become planned and predictable. It really just comes down to chaos versus control. So how exactly do we seize that control? Let's move into Section 3, inside an annual plan. What proactive maintenance actually looks like in practice. Listen, proactive maintenance is not just pouring some random store-bought chemical down the sink, crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. A professional annual routine is incredibly comprehensive. Technicians actually get in there and verify that drains function exactly as intended. They perform periodic, highly targeted cleaning of known problem areas way before those clogs can solidify. They check crucial venting connections to ensure proper airflow, which is absolutely vital for drainage. And they carefully assess older sections of piping that might be a little vulnerable. They are actively hunting for step 1 and step 2 of that clog life cycle we talked about just a minute ago. And here is an absolutely crucial detail. The best maintenance plans aren't one size fits all. Actually, you have to tailor the schedule. I mean, think about it. The drains in a high-traffic kitchen or a heavy-use laundry room are constantly battling grease, food particles, lint, the whole shebang. They require far more frequent attention than, say, a lightly used guest bathroom. A really smart, effective plan maps directly to your property's unique usage patterns. But this isn't just about avoiding a clogged sink on a busy Tuesday morning. It's about preserving your building's actual infrastructure. That brings us to Section 4, extending plumbing system lifespan. Let's look at the physics of a failing pipe. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what's going on down there. When we talk about pipe friction, we're talking about the immense stress caused when persistent buildup literally narrows your pipe interiors. When your pipes are coated in all that grime, their usable diameter shrinks down, and water has to work so much harder just to push through. When drains move slowly for long periods, the physical stress on your entire plumbing system steadily rises. It's this mechanical strain that just compounds, day after day, year after year. So, regular cleaning maintains that optimal flow. By reducing that internal friction, you are literally delaying the need for massive structural plumbing interventions. We're talking about pushing off major pipe repairs, section replacements, or worst case scenario, having your walls completely torn open for comprehensive line work. Keeping the flow smooth quite literally keeps the pipes young. And the beauty of this is that these benefits scale perfectly depending on who you are. For residential homeowners, clearer pipes mean an end to those daily annoyances, way fewer sink slowdowns, and totally eliminating those persistent, embarrassing odors. But if you're managing multi-unit buildings or commercial facilities, this is a real game changer. Predictable maintenance limits your facility downtime, avoids repeated resident complaints, and completely removes the need for your staff to do rushed, super expensive corrective work. All right, let's bring it all together into some actionable steps. Section 5, maximizing your maintenance ROI, turning an expense into an investment. If you really want to implement this strategy and lock in those long-term savings, well, here is your playbook. First off, start with a baseline inspection. Get a professional out there to understand your exact drainage flow right now. Second, identify your specific problem zones. You need to know exactly where the grease and hair are most likely to strike in your layout. Third, address minor drain problems early. Please don't wait for the water to stop draining completely to make a call. And finally, follow through with consistent annual verification. It's a simple, proactive strategy that just keeps you permanently ahead of the curve. So the crucial point here is summarized perfectly by this quote right from the source material. Treat annual maintenance as a routine investment rather than an optional expense. When you reframe your plumbing care this way, it completely stops being a grudge purchase. You aren't just paying a plumber, you're actively protecting your property's value, you're preserving your structural infrastructure, and you are shielding yourself from the total chaos of massive emergency repair bills. As we wrap up today's explainer, I want you to think about that unseen network of pipes carrying water through your walls right this very second. Is your plumbing system ready for another year? Because let me tell you, the grease, the soap scum, and the daily wear and tear, they definitely are. It might just be time to stop reacting to disasters and make the preventative pivot. Thanks so much for exploring this with me today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.